I wish to welcome you all to the Gambia Immigration Department Training School here in Tangi. And we have this occasion today with you to give you highlights and updates on some of the operations of the migration management of GID over the past weeks. In this briefing today, we will highlight to you some of the accomplishments that GID has been able to make in relation to curbing irregular migration. We will equally share with you some of the details we have been able to get through investigations as to how some of these cases have also been occurred. Now, after the briefing, we will allow you to also ask few questions as to areas you want to clarify before we can take leave of this environment. In today's briefing, we will share with you 3 cases that have occurred all in the month of March. Our first case occurred on the 3rd of March 2024, where a suspected abandoned boat was found along the Vigilo Beach behind Monkey Park. Now, the boat was believed to have departed the Gambia to Senegal, where they were also able to pick up some migrants in Senegal. And then they traveled from Senegal all the way down into Settlers. Now, when they went up to St. Louis, they had an engine failure and they could not continue. So the migrants had to decide that they want to come back to at least save their lives. Now, when they came, over 200 migrants were in this boat and they had traveled 4 days at sea before they came back to the Gambia. Upon arrival, many of them were found sick and injured and they had to rush themselves to local hospitals to seek medical attention. Now, when GID was informed of this particular case, our officers were able to go to the hospitals and be able to find some of these suspected migrants. Now, out of these 200, 21 of them were found to be given medical attention, and they were now taken to the GID unit here in Tangi for necessary investigations. In this particular case, out of these 21, we've also realized that we have 2 people that are found to be perpetrators. One of them is an agent called Alhaji Top, a Gambian, and also an agent called Ibrahim Sedi, who's also a Gambian. But then the main organizer of this particular suspected intercepted case was Mohamed Jain, who's a Senegalese national. So the case also was a bit very much critical. At the end, we were able to find 1 dead body in the boat that was also left around the Monkey Park. So this case occurred on the 3rd of March 2025. A second case that we've also had with regards to curbing irregular migration occurred in the area of Nyumi. It was conducted by the NBR Border Patrol Unit that is in Bara. And in this case, 30 suspected would-be migrants were intercepted. Now, out of this 30%, we realized that Senegalese, we found 17 of them. Gambians, we had 8 of them. Guineans, we had 4. When we use Guineans, we mean those from Guinea-Conakry. We have 4 of them. And Malians, we had only 1. Now, during the investigation, the following people were found to be culprits and perpetrators in the entire situation. The first culprit is believed to be Lamin Jammeh, a Senegalese national. He was arrested at the Bara car park with an amount of $74,000. Lamin had confessed to acting as a sub-agent and led GID officers to 3 other suspected migrants on the Esau highway. The second person that was also found is Abdoulaye Jahate, commonly called as Papalai. Papalai was found in Bankam village, where he was apprehended as a main agent, and then he had an amount of 1,335,000 CFA in cash with him as well. The other guy, Jahate, had also disclosed that more migrants were in Bakalar village in Nyumi. And under the custody of Alfoseni Sonko, who is a proclaimed Marabout in Bakalar. When GID officers traveled all the way to Bakalar, they were able to find 13 migrants that were harbored by Alfoseni Sonko as a proclaimed migrant. Now, both perpetrators have been released on bail after investigation procedures were all completed. Now, we also had another person who was a call of concern to the GID that is called Patesar. Patesar is a known boat builder in Bara, and he was called in for question. He is not among the organizers, but he builds boat. So he was also a concern to the GID, and he was invited for questioning. We are able to find out that the boat was not completed, and then it is currently being seized by the GID while we work on other prosecution matters as well. So in this particular operation, the GID would extend its appreciations to the communities of Nyumi for their support and also in affirming that we remain very much strong in trying to combat irregular migration. Our final case that occurred just yesterday is a case where we had 75 would-be migrants that were intercepted in Yarambamba. Now, this particular case also is alarming, as we've seen that most of them are non-Gambians. And it's not only been non-Gambians in a case, but they've also been in an environment where they have to be staying under the pretext of staying there before they're able to move. Now, what happened in this case? In the early hours of March 20th, a citizen called Operations Commander of West Coast Regional Immigration Officers and gave a tip-off that there is a disturbance and uncommon movements in an environment within Yarambamba. So based on this intelligence, our officers were able to go there that night, March only 20th, go survey the environment and be able to also gather information. So based on what they were able to gather, they realized that we had people who live in that compound. They could not know exactly what was happening. It was late at night, they could not go for the operation, so they had to wait till the following day, that is yesterday, the 21st of March, when together with the West Coast Region Task Force and GID officers, they have to now raid the place to see what was happening. Now, when we went into that particular compound, we've realized that the compound they had stayed is a compound number called 985 plus RV3, that is in Olyundu, Yarambamba. And the compound belonged to a Gambian who's a businessman, but it was rented by a Senegalese called Abdoulaye Diop. And Abdoulaye Diop is also believed to be the organizer of that particular case. But Abdoulaye at this point is on the run, and we would entreat the people out there to be able to support the GID in trying to intercept Abdoulaye while he's fleeing back to Senegal. Now, out of these 75 non-Gambian migrants, we've also realized that they lived in a single apartment that has only 3 bedrooms. And the environment where they had stayed is circled by many Gambians. So it becomes a concern to us that if people can live in a place, out of 75 people in one compound, you have neighbors beside you who still will feel to stay silent and not report this case to the officers. It becomes a challenge as well. So we think it's important for Gambians also to be very much vigilant when they see uncommon movements in these areas, that they engage officers so they can find necessary procedures. Now, going by the statistics of this particular case, we had 34 of them who are Senegalese, 35 of them as Guineans, 4 are Gambians, and 2 from Bissau Guineans. And among this number, 63 of them are found to be male, 12 are female, and 4 are minors. Now, they were all harbored in the compound until when we had raided the compound, they were now taken to Tangi at the training school here. Now, further investigation has also revealed that we have observed in many occasions that there have been movements around that environment. But the GIDs cannot be everywhere within the country, so it's important that the public is able to at least support us through community policing and provide some of this information that is important in the work that we do as a department. Now, out of all these 3 cases, we will not be able to just take the entire credit as a department, as we also work with partners and stakeholders. And it's important that we appreciate the work that is also being given by those people. The recent case of yesterday, if it was not for the West Coast Task Force, it would have been challenging because they would have outnumbered the GID staff we have in that operation. So through the task force operation, we're able to at least conduct the operation freely without any hitches along the way. We also want to appreciate the efforts of the COP Gambia project that is funded by the European Union and implemented by the Spanish National Police. They've also been very much instrumental in protecting and also safeguarding the lives of Gambians who are taking over this particular irregular route. We will also appreciate the efforts of Gambia Civil, who have also been very great partners in this particular initiative. At the national level, GID had been working together, hand in hand, together with the Gambian Navy, who are usually in the sea on patrol, and are sometimes able to do some interceptions and will hand over the cases to the Gambia Immigration Department. Our prosecution team has also been working tirelessly together with the police prosecution unit to be able to make sure that these perpetrators are also found to be in a case where they can go through the required punishments. Now, we will appreciate the efforts of the Gambian Navy, the efforts of the Gambian Police Force, the efforts of SIS and all other security forces that continue to support the work of the GID in what we are doing. We also want to again reiterate that the COP Gambia project was quite instrumental together with the Gambia Civil in this occasion. Now, as we close in this briefing, I also want to say that the GID, despite all its effort, have been doing tremendous work in trying to safeguard the lives of Gambians who are taking irregular routes. While we may have a few that are able to take over these cases, we noticed that a lot of Gambians have been losing their lives in these irregular routes. So taking credits of only a few going in, while we have thousands perishing in the sea, becomes a call of concern. So we look forward to the public support in trying to share with us information that will be very much instrumental in trying to reduce the rate of people taking the irregular routes. We also want to support and also appreciate the efforts of all GID officers who remain committed in making sure that their duty as officers is done tirelessly. While we also conclude, we also appreciate the efforts of the police intervention unit that have also been very much supportive to the works of the Gambia Immigration Department. Now, these are the three cases we want to share with you, and we want to say that we have been losing so many Gambians at sea. And it is now time that we ask ourselves, is it worth it? Do we really have to sacrifice the young breeds of this country who can be the hopes of our dear motherland if they're able to stay in the country and find a better living? Or do we still have to take a risk that we can make it out there, putting our life at sea for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, going down to a month, and at the end sometimes we have to come back home traumatized and sometimes sick and injured? We do hope that the risk isn't worth it, and it is key that we believe in our own selves as Gambians, look at our country and its interests, and safeguard our image as our country. With these few remarks, we will appreciate if you have any comments to share or you have any questions to ask. We will be glad to answer all those questions you may have. Thank you.